Gutmann, taking my gestures on there, Rob. Nice to see. It's the enthusiasm and the energy of getting to talk about this magnificent Liverpool team, Rob. It's got me all carried away. You must be excited about Saturday. We're going to come on to talk about that. We were all buzzing off Tuesday. And elsewhere, we've got a couple of little bits in this tour live. There's me talking to John Elledge after I've had a couple of drinks, and John Gibbons with Becky Loy and Jabeda Khatun from Blackfest as well. That is to come for us on tour live. But we are starting off with looking back to Liverpool's game, Liverpool's performance against AC Milan. We've got Cam Rimmer with us, and he's only just got back from Milan. Do you reckon you now own the San Siro, Cam? Have you brought it back with you? Did you bring it in the plane?
Well, I'm currently winning 1-0 in terms of games I've seen there, and what we've won. So yeah, I would say I do own it. But yeah, no, it was a brilliant trip, and even though it was a dead rubber game, it was still like that excitement feel, like on the day of the game and stuff. Getting to go to San Siro here in the Champions League.
It's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, it looks phenomenal. It's it's an unbelievable structure.
Oh yeah, it's easily hands down the best ground I've ever been to. It was just unbelievable, and I know we were like up in the gods, and how long it took us to get to the top of there literally made Newcastle feel like nothing. Like I'm never going to complain about Newcastle away ever again. But no, it was just brilliant couple of days, and yeah, it was just fingers crossed we can get a good draw on Monday and we can do it all again after Christmas.
It's the San Siro-ness of it all, John, was maybe a little bit that got missed. I think also around his selection for the manager as well, in that those players will have wanted to play in the San Siro. We've not had many San Siro opportunities, very few AC Milan opportunities, but not tons of San Siro opportunities. And I think, we did the jokes about Nat Phillips getting to play in the San Siro beforehand, but put the jokes to one side. All those lads just got to go and play a game of football in the San Siro, and that matters.
Well, I've never known so many players talk about a stadium afterwards on social media. Normally it's, great win, talking about the performance and, go through to the next round or whatever it is. But I saw 5 or 6 different players make a note of or make mention of playing in that ground and what a thrill it was and what an experience. And, there's knowing the ground's great, and I'm sure Cam's the same. I was lucky enough to go, in the 2000s when Torres scored, and there's knowing something greater than there's actually being in there and witness it and being part of it. And I think, to be fair, that's the case for Anfield sometimes when people come, isn't it? And when players play there or fans come there, it's sort of, it exceeds expectations. There's not many things in football, or indeed life, that exceed expectations, but the San Siro does. And I think the players felt that, and it made the occasion, as Cam says there, it could have been a nothing occasion really, but I think it sort of spiced it up a bit. It's AC Milan, which is glamour as well, and they were brilliant from minute 1 to minute 90. They were excellent and deserved winners.
Speaking of exceeding expectations, Rob Gutmann's with us. Rob, there is a thing here where we wanted to call it a dead rubber, rightly, because it was for us. But then as the game sort of wore on, you and I were lucky enough to watch it together, and the last 10 or so, we were absolutely desperate to see those lads win that game. Absolutely desperate to see them win that game because they come so far. Weirdly, because the goal comes from sort of a nothingy set piece, it sort of felt like they had a clean sheet to protect, and I know that's not the case, but the idea they keep them out in open play, they keep them out when they're under pressure. There was a real yearning to see that performance become a win.
Yes, I think for 2 reasons really. One was the sense of completing the set by winning 6 straight games in a group stage and looking like serious and sending out a message that we're very serious contenders for this season's Champions League. But for me, as much as that was keeping our winning momentum going, and I think that's probably big for the manager as much more so than the getting the complete thing in the group. I think he's big on that sort of thing. We've now, I think I'm right in saying, won 6 straight football matches, haven't we, since the last international break, or since defeat at West Ham?
Yeah.
That's a fair little run developing here. It's 4 in the league, 2 in Europe. So I think from that point of view, it suddenly became important. Look, when we went 1 down, it was a bit of a, fuck it, shrug, tonight's going to be what tonight's going to be, yeah?
Yeah.
But I think once we got back into it, once we found ourselves, I wouldn't quite say improbably in front, because it wasn't improbable, but I don't think we'd banked on taking that game by the scruff of the neck beforehand and winning it, because we thought we'd have such a scratch side out. But once victory was within our grasp and looked tangible, we did seem to suddenly invest quite a lot in it. And I think it's for the reasons I've just cited.
Yeah, it must have been the same being in the ground, Cam. Obviously, when you go to a game, you obviously want to see Liverpool win. But for me, it moved from wanting to see Liverpool win and thinking that would all be very lovely to all of a sudden, like I did have a sort of a mad moment at about 78 where I thought, yeah, I'd probably, I'd have a conversation about giving a kid need to see this one over the line. It was a really weird little journey to go on as a supporter. As I say, in the past, it was a luxurious journey to go on. Don't get me wrong, but it was a really weird little journey to go on.
Yeah, it was, and it was just like, some of the subs we were making, like that really was like it was a second string team, wasn't it? But it's really strong and they can hold their own going forward now, especially with like Leicester coming up in the cup and stuff. But yeah, no, it was just one of them. Like you just want to see all of them players just get over the line, wasn't it? Because some of them now, can you imagine the confidence that's going to have on some of the players who are string players who in and around the first team, and especially like your Tyler Mortons and stuff, like they're just going to be on cloud nine now, aren't they? But it was good, but it was just brilliant to be in that position. I was going the grounds with my dad, and I was saying, normally the Liverpool of yesteryear, like we'd be saying, if we don't win tonight, we're out, sort of thing. We always seem to take it to like the very last game. Like I remember Salzburg a few years ago and stuff.
Yeah.
But going there, and we were like, it was relaxed, but at the end, we were still wanting to do the 6 out of 6, which again is another brilliant record for us. And yeah, it was just a brilliant night, and it's something I'll stay with all them players forever.
This thing, John, I think it is the key takeaway for the manager, really. He's going to have, at the very least, a turnaround. He's got coming up. We've got the game at the weekend against Villa, then there's a bit of a break to the Newcastle game, but then there's not much of a break to the Tottenham game. Then there's the Leicester game, which is a League Cup game, and then he's going to have Leeds on the 26th, and then he's got Leicester about sort of 56 hours after the kickoff of the Leeds game on that night. And what it gives him is the idea that he can play with options, that he can blend this a little bit, that it doesn't have to be one strong team and one weak team, nor does it have to be the idea that he's worrying about one or two, that he makes two go, maybe a couple of plays he might not want to see go twice in such a quick turnaround time. I think it's fascinating for him that he suddenly presented himself with this, and he's been presented with this, I can rely on these boys. I can get something out of all of them. They can all play with each other. And I think that's what he was looking to get from the game in the San Siro, and it's what he's got.
Yeah, I think that's really fair, Neil. And I think, you can look at certain games and think, is that the one we make changes for? But when Jurgen looks at it, he'll probably think, I want to be sort of constantly making changes and, but keeping us just as strong. And, the squad has looked good. The much maligned squad of Liverpool, Depth FC and all that have looked pretty decent and have shown themselves to be good. And to be fair, we've seen little bits of that at centre-half. There's been times where, he's gone Virgil and Matip, and then Virgil Canate, and then Canate and Matip, obviously, or the other way around slightly. But he's played, 3 of them twice each across 3 games in quick succession, and we might start seeing a little bit of that in other areas as well. Look, he'd love Firmino back, wouldn't he? Because that really allows you to go forward into 3 and stay strong. But Divock Origi is on fire at the moment, isn't he? Scoring goals and looking confident, and so I think we'll probably see sort of a little bit of him. And then in midfield as well, I thought Chamberlain, was good again, and he's put enough good performances in a row together now to suggest that he's back close, to what we want him to be, and is certainly good enough to be considered a first team player. And so good options, and I'm with you, Neil. I think it wouldn't surprise me if he's planned it all out to make 2 or 3 each game to keep as strong as possible.
For me, Rob, the Divock gets a mention there from John, and rightly so. The key, the KPI is sticking the ball in the back of the net, and he's now 2-2 on sticking the ball in the back of the net. But he was very involved, I thought, against Milan. He was constantly there, and he's such a live threat when he's in that sort of mood. But the other thing that's noticeable with him is there's this very strong commitment that he now plays down the middle. It feels as though that's been the manager's big move. There's not moving Divock around and putting Mane down the middle or something like that. It is that Origi plays centre forward.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of him used on the flanks, haven't we, to provide a bit of pace from time to time when one of the other boys is missing. But I think there's maybe a growing appreciation that Divock actually probably holds the ball up as well as anyone in our forward positions. And, especially I think if you're expecting to come under a bit of pressure, an outball is an outball. And a striker who can hold it up for you in a bit of an old-fashioned sense, which Divock can, is an asset. And I think that's why we're seeing that. I think that's why Klopp's accepting it. He's done himself no harm, has he, this season, Divock, with these goals. And I think coming into, African Cup of Nations month, it's just an important sort of turning point in Divock's career, because he's sort of, for the first time, if he can stay fit, and that's a big caveat with Divock, got an opportunity to really push on, to have got to the end of January and got quite a load of starts under his belt. And if he can keep the scoring momentum up, we don't know what, he might be not a million miles off the 10-goal mark, coming into February. Who knows? And that possibly gives his Liverpool career a second wind, as much as put him in the shop window. Let's not forget he's 26 years old. Is that right? That's really young, He could still be a year or two from his peak, especially given the type of forward he's evolving into.
I think Johnny's really helped by the idea that we're getting more from midfield. This can seem like a strange thing to say, but we know he's not going to be as creative a forward as you would expect Firmino. So when your front line is Firmino, Mane, and Salah, you bring Origi into that, and it's a bit like, well, where's the swap over there? You lose a little bit of someone else who's going to make something happen for you in the idea of a through ball or a little turn sort of way. But if Thiago and Henderson or Thiago and Chamberlain are playing centre midfield, the idea that you need that false nine to be a creative hub, a creative pivot, it's a little lessened, I think. And I think the more creativity Liverpool have got from midfield, the more they can relax with the idea that the lad who's playing through the middle, he doesn't need to do as much of that. And maybe there's a little bit more of that old style, get the ball up there, knock it back one, because you're knocking it back to a Thiago who can then play a killer pass rather than knocking it back to someone else.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think that is possible, and whatever the changes that Liverpool have made, and I think it's maybe a bit of a change, for Divock as well, seems to be sort of working for them at the moment, and I think those bursts from midfield have been a real feature of our play all season, really, and I think for the front three as well, it can feel like sometimes we can sort of mark them out of it. Quite often teams will play three at the back, against us, and which turns into five at the back, to sort of have that extra protection, really, and it can feel like you can stifle us sort of that way. But if you've got those midfielders breaking, then they need looking after, they need paying attention. If it's a defender going over, then suddenly a forward's got a little bit of space, and Divock certainly, benefits him from that at the moment. And you've seen when he's one-on-one with a defender, he can just spin him and turn him like he does for the Wolves goal, and then he's in, So I agree with what everyone said as well about Divock, in the sense of the slight problem he's got and we've got is when we do lose the guys to African Cup of Nations, you've got three fellas who all want to play central, really. So we've got Origi, Jota, and Minamino, who are all good players.
Firmino.
Yeah, exactly. And Firmino, who are all good players, but would all prefer to play in the middle, I think, and that's the four guys you've got. And so someone, is going to have to play a little bit wide, unless we 4-4-2 it, which might be a laugh. But someone will probably have to play a bit wide, and it might just end up being Divock. But who knows? It's the winter of Divock, isn't it? So he might just be a revelation there too.
The lad who I think has got it toughest, in a sense, in terms of the swapping in and out, Cam. We've seen Shimikas. He can do a really, really strong, left back role. I'm not even going to say cover role. He brings slightly different things to it to Robertson, but they're only slightly different. I think Nico Williams looks like a really good attacking fullback, but he's in a bit of a situation where literally the best one in the world and the most unorthodox one in the world is the one he comes in for. So Williams plays really, really well, I think, there against Milan, but unlike in a couple of other areas where you could say, well, you'd swap that one for legs here and there and you wouldn't see that much of a difference, you wouldn't see that much of a join. It's a funny thing to say that almost no matter how well Nico Williams does, and he plays really well against Milan, he's not going to be Kevin De Bruyne playing right back, which is sort of what Trent Alexander-Arnold offers you.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was thinking about that the other day in terms of no matter how good him or Tsimikas are, it just feels as if they deserve to be getting more game time. And at the end of the day, you've got Robbo and Trent there. It's just a tough situation for them, but I mean, for us, you can't complain because you can always just rely on them a lot. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, when you're saying about Nico and Tsimikas moving forward, that could always be an option. When we were saying then about all them lads wanting to play in the middle, going forward, I mean, stranger things have happened in terms of about Tsimikas going forward. So I'm basically
especially Nico Williams wide right.
Nico Williams plays wide right in this game. He ends up right side forward, doesn't he?
Yeah. So going forward, I mean, might he try in the League Cup or the FA Cup games and then see how that goes and then move, because I wouldn't really want to risk in a Premier League game just yet. But you never know, do you? But there are two good options to have, and I think the performances that they've gave in this season, they deserve as much game time as possible.
Other one to talk about, I feel like Chamberlain is now in the first team gang, Rob, full stop. It wouldn't surprise you if he starts either of the next two. Chamberlain at home could be dropped in for either of them. The one who, again, has forced himself into the wider conversations, Morton. I don't think we're quite to the point where we'd expect to see Morton feature for any length of time, at least, against Villa or against Newcastle. but you wouldn't be absolutely scandalised if it did just suddenly happen for one reason or another. You wouldn't think, oh no, this is going to become an unmitigated disaster. You'd think, all right, let's see what this lad's got about him in a Premier League game, because he's done it well enough against Porto and against AC Milan.
Yeah, I'd like to think that we'd like to keep dropping him in and giving him minutes in Premier League games, but you kind of don't want that to happen either, because you want people to be fit. And I think there's a lot of good midfielders at Liverpool who I'd really rather be appearing from the bench before Morton at the moment. Having said that, Leicester in the League Cup is looming. Shrewsbury in the FA Cup is looming. You know, we don't have to be greedy in the game time we require for Tyler Morton at the moment. He's had really quite a lot more this season than I think he would have expected, rewinding to end of last season. Incredible amount, really. So long may our runs continue in the domestic cups is what I would say, rather than wishing for Premier League minutes for him.
Just on that domestic cup point, I think it's for the first time, really, John. It's an interesting sort of maturation of the squad. For the first time, you are in that sort of Man City camp of there being positives to the additional games. And I think in the past, every other season, really, 2020, 2021, a bit of a weird exception because it's where the injuries absolutely hit. So that's one of the reasons why. But even in 1920, it didn't feel as though that was quite there. In 1819, I don't think that was quite there, although there was enough depth to get 97 points and win a Champions League. It didn't feel as though you're in the full Man City sort of gear of, well, it's absolutely fine to have a third and fourth round FA Cup game in the same month as the potential for a League Cup semi-final two-legged thing. It's a strange place to be in that it not only is it absolutely fine, but it feels as though it might actually be preferable in terms of getting some of these footballers time playing competitive football.
Yeah, I mean, this League Cup run's been great for us, hasn't it? And I think, look, Klopp's had a lot of criticism for his attitude to domestic cups, really. But I think, he's always been, sort of open to a bit of an adventure in them. There's just the priorities are there, and they're there for other teams as well. They're
there for Man City, even though they win them.
Yeah, it's just when you're able to make 8 changes and still be strong, that it's fine, isn't it? But when you're not, you sort of get criticised. So I think you're going to be enjoying it. I think you're going to win if he wants to win, everything possible. He just knows what the priorities are, for the supporters and for the ownership, of course. And he wants to see, lads sort of give it a go and kept fresh. And I think as well, draws make a big difference as well. Yeah. I mean, we've, isn't it lovely to get a nice home tie in the FA Cup third round? Do you know what I mean? This time, rather than, I don't know, Real Madrid away or something, and so that's sort of been where we've been at, and so so we're able to rotate in that. You're able to rotate maybe the next one if you get another nice draw, and then suddenly before you know it, you're in the 5th round, and you can start sort of thinking about, oh, do we want to sort of have a real go at this? And so I think the draws for once this season so far have been reasonably favourable to Liverpool as well, and that just allows you to go a little bit longer as well.
Cam, who do you want?
Lisbon, Sporting Lisbon.
Sporting Lisbon?
Yeah, in terms of just the footy and the trip as well. But also, you've got to be looking at the other ties as well, because, there's a potential for Bayern Munich, Chelsea, so all cancelling out already and stuff. But for me, Sporting Lisbon or Benfica. But yeah, I'll go with Lisbon.
You're just very committed to going to Portugal, Cam, and I like
That's
it.
What I was trying to.
You set your stall out.
I was basically getting to that point, and I have already planned out a nice little 3 or 4 day trip there in February. So yeah, Portugal.
Who do you want, Rob?
I'm with Cam all the way there, yeah. There's a 1 in 3 chance that we go to Lisbon, isn't there? And I agree, I would prefer Sporting. So just remind me the rest. It's Salzburg. Who is it? It's those two, Salzburg, PSG, and who are the other two?
Inter Milan.
And Villarreal.
And Villarreal. Villarreal or Atalanta, depending on what happens.
Yeah, depending on what happens. Yeah, you definitely... The 2 Lisbon options by far the best, I think, on balance, in that they're both not very good, and it's a lovely place to go.
Yeah, full house. It's a beautiful city. I'm going to pretend it's going to be warm, even if it's not. And yeah, I know some really nice places to eat. So Lisbon is one of the best cities in the world to eat and drink in.
No love for Salzburg.
I've not been. Those who did, I don't think we're massively having it, to be honest with you. And so there we are. But my friends aren't the most cultured, I'll be honest with you. So don't necessarily listen to them. But Harriet says Salzburg's amazing. So there we are. Boot them right off. So there we are. But yeah, now We're going to Portugal, Harriet. We've decided. Leave me alone. Stop bullying me by text.
Yeah, we are. There seems a real commitment to Portugal. I think you want to avoid Paris Saint-Germain, don't you, Rob? Partially from a sporting basis, but also the idea that I think we beat them over two legs, but it become the focus. That's what puts me off. It will be the biggest game in Europe in the whole month. And Liverpool's players and manager, no matter how much they try to act like they wouldn't be thinking about it, they would be thinking about it. It would be an enormous two-legged occasion against Paris Saint-Germain. And I'm fine to have enormous two-legged occasions. Trust me, I want as many of them as possible for Liverpool. But I just quite like them to be in the last 8 or the last 4. I don't think I want one in the last 16.
No, you end up, it's a big game. And if you get through it, you end up thinking you've virtually won the European Cup, and you wake up in the morning and realise there's still another 3 tests to go of only equal or better standard. So I'm not into the view that says you've got to beat everyone anyway. No, let's have faced all the bums for as long as possible, all the way. I mean, I want Sporting, and then I want Lille, who I think could, if they get a bit of a lucky draw in the quarters, and then God knows what fluke in the semi-final could await us after that. If Ajax have gone the distance, all the bums. Paris Saint-Germain would be, in a sporting sense, the worst of the draws for us, but in another sense, it'd be a fantastic draw, in as much as we'd get to go to Paris. And I think even those who don't have tickets should just go to Paris, and we should all have a lovely time there. There'd be a lot of it. As you said, it would be the biggest game in Europe in the course of that month. There'd be a lot of subplots, wouldn't there? Like, the one that came to my mind straight away is the Messi gets to go back to Anfield subplot. I couldn't be asked with that, really, amongst the many other things I couldn't be asked with about that draw.
Absolutely not. Anyway, this is TAW Live, so we've got our inserts right now. If you're listening to this as a podcast, if not, we do it as a live thing on YouTube and other platforms. I think that those platforms include Facebook and Twitter, trying to sort of get and Twitch. There's been Twitch chat in the past, John. Not fewer Twitchers these days in the comments.
Don't ask me. I'm very good on all this.
Yeah, I mean it's good that you know that's where you are. So what we'll be doing is that if you are listening to this as the podcast, the inserts will come in now. It isn't that excellent stuff. And if you're not, if you're doing this as part of the live, we'll go right the way through and we'll immediately start talking to Cam and Rob about Aston Villa. So 3, 2, 1, and we're back and we're talking about Aston Villa with Cam Rimmer and Rob Gutmann, John Gibbons with me as well. Cam. Steven Gerrard right now is, with the greatest of love and respect, absolutely irrelevant to my life. There is one thing that is relevant to my life, and it's 3 more points to Liverpool. There'll be a lot of determination to talk about Steven in a lot of different ways. I think he himself wants one thing and one thing only, and that's 3 points as well. I think remembering how good it is to beat your mates at anything is an important thing that needs to happen here. And I very much want to see Steven Gerrard on the end of a Liverpudlian hiding.
Yeah, same. I mean, I could talk about Steven Gerrard all day, to be honest, but I just want to dismiss it, as like you've just been saying before we came on the show. If Gerrard wasn't there and it was somebody else, it'd literally just be your standard 3 o'clock Saturday home game, I think, wouldn't it? But instead, now there's this whole big narrative coming out about it. But yeah, I think we just need to treat it just as a normal game as much as possible, and know the media are going to try and build her up. But for me, it just needs to be like the Southampton game, where it's won by half time and you're already on to the next one, because we've seen it last week when we had to dig right till the end at Wolves. It's the games before that where you can rest and reserve the energy. Then it's going to be a game down the road where you'll come a bit unstuck. And with this Christmas period coming up, just get the points, give Gerrard an applause at the start, and then that's it. Just move on.
I want a bit more than the applause at the start, John. What I want is the somewhat stomach churning, toe curling, we're singing Steven's name on 84 because the Reds are 4-0 up and we feel really magnanimous and we're really smug about it. That's what I want in terms of letting on to Gerrard, and he's got to keep his head down because he's coaching Aston Villa, and he's also really annoyed because he's getting beat 4-0. This is the state of affairs I am about here. That's the context in which I want to sing Steven Gerrard's name, no other one.
I mean, I've never known you want to beat a Steve so much since I watched you play Graves at Pool. But in a similar sort of way, you seem to want to be both as patronisingly magnanimous in win. Well done, mate. You did really well for a long time. You were right in that game right till the end.
Till 43.
Until I battered you.
Yeah. So 43, you were all over it, Stephen. That's what I want to say. Till about 43, and then we went 1-0 up, and then it was 3-0 by 60. This is my
honestly, the amount of times I've had this pint is unreal. In some sort of in Boston pool loft, it's absolutely crazy. But yeah, that's the dream, isn't it? He comes, we give him a nice clap, we batter Aston Villa, and we get to sort of give him a big clap at the end. And that's the sort of ideal situation. And also, I would argue the most likely situation, because although they've done well since he's took off, it's 3 wins, it's 3 battling wins against teams who are only half a football team compared to the boys in red. And so I think, although they gave City a decent game, I think Liverpool are going to be right on it. So many players have had a big break, more pool action since the last sort of league game. So I think they're going to be absolutely ready to go.
I'll come back to you, John. You've done stuff on our subscription stuff, talking to Rangers supporters whilst Gerrard was there a lot of the time. And the thing that he's been good at, that he was genuinely very, very good at Rangers. Now, he was doing it from the position of being the first or second best team in the league. But the thing he was very, very good at was stopping the opposition. That was really weirdly, it wouldn't be what you'd necessarily expect, but he was very, very structured, and he would limit the opposition's number of chances, but also especially quality of chances. And that's the thing that I think I've got my eye on. And he managed to do that relatively well against Manchester City.
Well, his reputation actually as a manager of Rangers sort of came first for the European run, didn't it?
Yeah.
And they did a couple of years ago, so the year before, they won the league. They did really well in the Europa League and beat some teams who, they had sort of no right to really, and hadn't for a while. Rangers hadn't really done sort of much in Europe until from the final that they got to quite a few sort of number of years ago, really. So the Rangers fans you spoke to were sort of most impressed by that. And as you say, Neil, that sort of might surprise a few people who expect Gerrard, the player, to sort of be into the manager and it to be sort of about, motivation and attacking football and sort of, full throttle stuff. Whereas actually, he's very thoughtful. He'll come with a tactical plan at Anfield, but we've seen plenty of teams come with good tactical plans before, and then Mo Salah dances around 3 of you, and so I think they'll be tough to beat, and I think they'll be up for it, and they're motivated and the confidence at the moment. But I just think we're flying so high at the moment, and we're so determined. We've got the steel in our eyes at the moment. Really, I don't see that going anywhere anytime soon.
The steel, I think, Rob, is come more and more to the fore. I think across since post West Ham, Liverpool do appear to have something that's a little bit steelier. I think they'll have been a little rattled by what went on at West Ham, and you can go one or two ways. When you're rattled, you can go back into your shell, or you can do what Liverpool have done, which is absolutely stick the chest out. And that's what I'm seeing at the moment. I think we're getting closer and closer to a hybrid of this exceptionally attacking football with the grinding winning machine that we saw in 1920 that was second to none. If that can continue with another win, if that can continue all the way into Christmas, we're talking here about Villa, then Newcastle, maybe the Tottenham game, but they've got an enormous amount of issues at the moment. And then we're into the genuine chunk of the Christmas period. 3 wins from the next 3, and that table will be absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, look, we've seen this pattern for every year under Klopp, I think, without exception, that he seems to prime his squads to be peaking around now. Certainly in the first half of the season. This is the key phase when the games are coming very, very concertinaed together, that he wants to get them into a certain rhythm to keep them really at a boil, if you like. Having said that, against West Ham, it felt a game too far in a certain sense, so that he'd retained the same side. This week he's done something different. There will be probably 9 changes from the team that beat AC Milan. The 2 that possibly don't change are arguably our 2 best players, so that's interesting.
And the goalkeeper.
And the goalkeeper, true. But you know what? With a rested supporting cast, hopefully that's not such an issue. I just want to say on the Gerrard situation for Saturday and Saturday only, he's dead to me. I'm likely to boo him than sing his name. It's just one of them. I don't want to see any sentimentality around that. You're right. We have games to win. We're on an incredible run of 6 straight wins. These are the kind of fixtures you want to build runs. Yes, Aston Villa will be a test for us. They are better than Newcastle, who we'll face next week, or Southampton we faced the other week. And they're probably better than Wolves as well, even though Wolves have beaten them this season, I think. Yeah, they have. So there'll be a sort of test, but they shouldn't be testing a Liverpool run, really. These are the kind of fixtures. Even Tottenham away next week, I'm going to put into that category. That's a game I think we should win, and I think we will win. These are the kind of fixtures where you build on really, really strong runs that win leagues. So I think the determination to accept nothing but victory will see Liverpool over the line again.
In the comments there, Roster Monkey 99, Red Balloons lad, says, Neil, you say watch City for the run because we've got to match them. They're 5 games winning. We're 4 in. Is this starting out to the end of the season, Cam? I feel as though it might be. I think there's every chance that we're sitting here prior to the game against Leeds, say, and we're saying, all right, well, now we're sitting on 7 and they're sitting on 8. And then, getting all the way through to when we face Chelsea or when they face Chelsea, and we're saying, right, it's now, these are sides that are now 9-9 or 10-10. It feels like someone's just turned a lever, pulled a lever, and there's a thing now that's happening that we've seen before. We could be proven wrong. Both could drop points this weekend. I didn't think Chelsea had dropped points to West Ham last weekend. I think both have got one in them somewhere at some point. But there's a flip side, which is that there's having one in you. There's the idea that you might throw double 6 and find yourself in a bit of trouble. But, if you don't throw double 6, there's a lot of other things to throw. And at the minute, that's where Liverpool and City look to me. I think something's got to go badly wrong to see either of them dropping points at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I've said on a couple of shows, and other people have said as well, it feels as if, like, us or City we've got in them to go 10 games, winning all of them in a row. But I just feel as if us and City, since the turn of the last international break, we've kind of showed our experiences from the 18-19 season where you're just winning every single week. And now it's just starting to, and both teams seem to be both doing it like a bit quietly. No one's really still speaking about it. It still seems to be a bit more about Chelsea and what they're doing for some reason, even though us and City have proved it the last few years. But yeah, I think now us and City are just going to go off on one. It's just going to be the next couple of months are going to be quite nerve-wracking. But yeah, I think for this Christmas period, I think us and City would not be surprised if we both come out with maximum points, and then the table after Christmas will it's us all City then, isn't it?
That's what I think we end up, Rob. And the phase of this, as you said before about the changes, I'll say you're the team, and you'll tell me if you disagree with any of the names as I'm going through them. Alisson in goal, Trent, Robbo, Virgil, Matip, and then ahead of that you're going to end up with Fabinho, Henderson, Thiago, Salamani, Jota. Are we all as one on that being the team? John's nodding. Rob?
Yeah, barring if there's been any injuries, but yeah, 100% it's that side.
You know that he might decide to do Konate back-to-back off the fact that he plays ever so well on Tuesday. Do you think that might be in his mind to think, I might give him this one again and then bring Matip back in for Newcastle? Or do you think he just goes with Matip?
I think he'll take Villa. He'll see Villa as the bigger test than Newcastle. So I think if he's feeling like he needs to give Konate some extra love, I think Newcastle's the one. Are we undone by set pieces against Newcastle a bit last season? Maybe a little bit.
Missed chances more, really.
Yeah, scrambles in the box. I don't know. Matip's had his rest. I think he's got to manage Matip's minutes over this Christmas period, hasn't he? So 1 in 1. Matip's had a week off now. So I think bringing him back in for Villa makes sense. And then taking him back out for Newcastle makes sense. And bringing him back in for Tottenham, therefore, makes sense. Leicester and so on. So the rhythm is you bring Matip in this week.
And you look to start Gomez against Leicester.
In the League Cup, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's looming as an interesting week, that one, isn't it? Because he's, especially for Salah and Mane, who he's given no time off apart from sort of late in the game the other night. That is the week where sports science and him will be totally aligned, and they go, you just do not go anywhere near that game.
Cam, do you think that'll be the side? Do you think there'll be any sort of question marks around Konate? About maybe giving I think Chamberlain, I'd like to think, gets one of the next 2 as a start. I just don't think it's Villa. I think it's Henderson for Villa.
Yeah, I think that as well. But I think Chamberlain definitely does deserve to go back in for the game after. But I think Klopp will probably sit down with, there's going to be what the core 18-19 is going to say. You're all going to be playing some part over this Christmas period. So don't be disappointed, to your Chamberlains or your Konates if they're not in on Saturday, because you'll be in next Thursday, or even you'll be in at Spurs as well, the Sunday after. So yeah, I think everybody's getting a lot of game time. But yeah, I think that team that you've just said there, that's be my prediction.
Yeah, I think so. I think he'll go strong, in this one, obviously, and that team is, I think, the one he'll go for. And then the Newcastle. The interesting, obviously, little subplot, I guess, to use that word again, is we're not really sure what's going on with Tottenham yet, and so I don't think he can plan sort of too far. I think by Tuesday or Wednesday next week, we should have a fair idea whether that game's going to be on or not. But obviously, their sort of COVID list seems to be growing all the time, really, and so you'd be disappointed to sort of rotate too heavily ahead of something that then sort of doesn't happen. But I think this one, especially with none of the the midfielders we've just mentioned starting in the week, you'd be really, really surprised if they didn't all start this. Then Newcastle, should it be look like Spurs happening? Then you're looking at probably, Chamberlain, Chimikas and Kanate maybe coming in and those three, and giving a bit of a rest, and then looking to go more or less the same team. I think the Spurs will be more or less his plan, but he's got his own plans and he probably doesn't listen to me.
I mean, I'd like to hope not. To any of us, John, that's not me. That's not me picking on you. To absolutely any of us, he will have his own plans. Cam, prediction?
First Saturday, I'm going to go 4-0. Just to upset Rob, I think Gerrard will get an applause at the start of the game. I mean, there's going to be all the boom, but yeah, 4-0.
4-0. John?
I think 3-0. Not quite as confident as Cam, but confident in the Reds, and I think we'll maybe see it dwindle off towards the end with a busy schedule ahead of us, as has been the case a little bit recently. So go 3-0 Liverpool.
Rob?
I think we'll win 2-0. Let's say that.
Okay, win 2-0. I've a little eye on Liverpool 3, Aston Villa 1. That's what I'm expecting, with maybe a slightly later third goal than John's suggested there, but Liverpool always feeling as though they're just in control of it. I think Ollie Watkins is difficult for us, to be honest, and it's not just off the 7-2. I think in general he does a lot of things that he's good at coming outside to win, and he's good at running channels, and he's good at helping us get pinned back. So I think he's a difficult player for us.
Yeah, he's been doing a bit wide left though, hasn't he? So whether he sort of ends up getting dragged into defensive work, I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Absolutely.
Depends how brave they are.
Absolutely. Claudette's comment is perfectly fair. Gerrard is the same as Dalglish going to Blackburn. Respect the legend and the opponent, absolutely, but get the 3 points. Get the 3 points. That is the only thing that matters. And Steven Gerrard would understand that more than you could ever conceive of. The nature of the fact that he is Steven Gerrard means he knows that only one thing matters, and the one thing that matters is Liverpool winning. Thank you very much to all of our inserts, to John, to Cam, and to Rob. We'll see you later.